I want to grant over $100 million in regulatory relief to the mainstream media.
We don't want to give any tax dollars to the mainstream media. Our belief is that the mainstream media and all...
Your party's decision to grant regulatory relief?
So I'll answer your question. The media that is bought and paid for, where are you from, by the way? Which outlet are you in? Which outlet? Which outlet?
Canadian Press.
Ah, okay, Canadian Press. So you're talking about tax dollars for media. Isn't CBC your biggest? Isn't no? I can answer.
I asked regulatory.
Yeah, and you want to answer?
The party wants to grant $100 million in regulatory relief to the mainstream media.
When would you like me to respond? Okay, good. Okay, great. So, of course, you are a tax-funded media outlet and spreading Justin Trudeau's message.
Why did you?
And so you're interrupting me again. You're interrupting me again. I am answering the question.
Do you regret granting $100 million in regulatory relief to the mainstream media, including
Your question
Bell?
is false. So if you can allow me to correct your falsehoods, then we can answer the question directly. So, false. Canadian Conservatives do not believe in giving tax dollars to media outlets. That's Justin Trudeau. That's Justin Trudeau. That's Justin Trudeau. Okay, if you don't want me to answer the question, I'll move on to someone else. You're a tax-funded mouthpiece to the PMO. That's the reality.
Question answered. You committed.
I'm trying to, but you're heckling. Are you going to let me answer the question, or are you just going to heckle on behalf of Justin Trudeau? So our party does not support tax dollars for media outlets, because that's when we end up with biased media like you, who come here and articulate the PMO talking points rather than delivering real news to the Canadian people. Justin Trudeau gave Bell Media and other media tax dollars supposedly to protect media jobs. And then what happened? They all got laid off. So that the supposed justification for giving Bell all this money was that it was going to save media jobs. Well, they all got fired. So I guess that wasn't the real reason for giving tax dollars to the media. The real reason was for him to buy support from the media, which is what it actually did. So we believe that media should be driven by readership, viewership, and listenership, and that's what allows it to represent the Canadian people rather than taking marching orders from the PMO.
You support a boycott of Tesla?
Oh, definitely.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Why is that?
I want him to go bankrupt.
Is that a good idea to go after Tesla? Shut it down?
Yeah, definitely.
Would you consider yourself an environmentalist or no?
Yeah.
I do care about the environment. Actually, in my neighborhood, they call them the recycle czar.
Boycotting, bankrupting Tesla, how, in your view, does that further the environmental cause, in your view?
I think it brings more attention to it at the very least. Does it actively further it? Who's to say?
How does that further the environmental cause, would you say?
Well, look at all the recalls already. The lithium batteries and stuff. They always, and that's not good anyway. You know what I mean? Us ordinary citizens can't dispose lithium batteries just anywhere.
Would you be against then firebombing them because it's bad for the environment? Firebombing a Cybertruck, let's say.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's going to give out toxic fumes and stuff.
Probably some.
But I'm saying it's the power to the people.
Lighting fires to Teslas, vandalizing, are we in support of that or no? What are your thoughts?
Scale of 1 to 10, 10 being most supportive, I would say 8 to 9.
Your bill, the Republicans' bill that they're trying to pass, they're trying to cut food stamps. They're trying to cut WIC. So what do you have to say about that? Yeah, if people are living on a shoestring about it, what are they going to do now that those helping things are gone?
First and foremost, it should be a safety net, not a hammock. And yes, we absolutely should means test this. People who are able to work should work, and we should not subsidize people that endlessly leach off of the federal government.
100%
period.
Agree. What I'm saying is that there are people who do work and who still cannot afford it. So what do you say to those people who they are working, they're working hard?
I just told you. I just called BS on your whole scenario.
All right, guys. The Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence are coming out. Sister! How's it going?
Good, how are you?
Is Pride a celebration or a protest this year? Both?
Yes, we're celebrating that we're here and protesting all the BS that's going on.
Do you believe that conservatives are a danger to society?
Absolutely.
They are?
Oh, absolutely.
What makes them a danger?
Because they're trying to push everybody back into a closet in a dark room. They don't want to know who we are. They don't want to believe that we're real. That's how I feel.
What is a woman?
What is a woman? A woman's a girl with a vagina, but also there are men who want to be that, and they get that.
But are they actually a woman?
They're a woman. They're a woman in their heart and soul.
Okay.
And that's important.
That sounds a bit contradicting.
No, because heart and soul, they believe they should have been a woman.
You started with vagina.
Right, and they get that.
Well, they don't have a vagina if they're a biological man.
They get that.
Biological vagina?
Well, the best they can.
Okay, so they're not a real woman.
They're a real woman as long as they believe they are, and in their heart they are, and they feel that they are. Your spirit is what your spirit is.
So can I be a sloth?
We need. You are. I gotta get these guys.
We're missing our group, so.
Alrighty.
I recall a time in our country's history, not that long ago, where people like my grandfather were told that they could not participate in sporting activities because he was a black man. We are repeating history, Madam Speaker, in this debate, and it is very, very scary to me that we are making a lot of the same arguments today about this subset of our population that my grandfather, my grandmother, and my grandparents had to be subjected to for years.
But he won the popular vote by 1.5%, one of the smallest ever, and he won the general election by less than 50%. So what kind of mandate is this really?
Well, it is a mandate, and I'm going to explain why. And I don't mind the question, but let me be very clear. I'm no supporter of Trump. I'm a supporter of truth and the facts. And here's the facts. The man won every swing state. He increased in terms of his voter turnout in his favor from the standpoint of blacks, Latinos, and young voters. He increased his numbers in that regard from 2020. 89% of the counties shifted to the right. That's a mandate. We can sit up there and play around all we want to. In 2020, Trump didn't win the popular vote. He didn't win the electoral college vote. A matter of fact, the Republicans hadn't won the popular vote, if I remember correctly, since 2004. But they did this year. So 20 years after they last won the popular vote, they won the popular vote. They won the electoral college vote. The man won every swing state. And on top of it, 89% of the counties shifted against. I don't understand how people can look at that and say, there's no mandate. There's a mandate.
Well, it's a different definition of a mandate, I guess.
But the problem is that if you're the Democratic Party and you lost 49.8% to 48.3%, and you're looking at that 1.5% dip, that's an excuse for you to say, what we did really wasn't that bad.
Some people didn't
we should continue to do that. No, don't continue to do that. Find a new strategy.
In other words, Joy, get a new show. He just shut you down.
Are you serious?
I'm asking you.
No, I mean, are you serious? Come on. You're telling me. No, excuse me. Let me answer your question. Are you honestly saying that it's society's fault if a repeat violent offender commits 60 or 70 offenses? I think that criminal is to blame for his own actions. He is personally responsible. We're not talking about some kid who made one mistake when he was 19. We're talking about people who do 60, 70 violent offenses. And then because they're criminals.
But why are they criminals?
Because they do crime.
And why do they do crime?
Because we let them out early on bail.
So because they
I think we've solved the riddle here.
Because they got let out early on bail.
That's right.
They then commit the crime.
That's right. That's what all the experts agree is the cause of the crime.
So if they stayed in jail the whole time on bail in jail, they would then not commit crimes.
Because they'd be in jail, so they couldn't commit crimes.
When they
have been plenty of
There was
times.
no deficit?
No, there are
no
plenty
goods were kept out.
There are plenty. How many? Have you been to the crossing points?
No.
When were you last there at all?
I've never been.
You've never been?
Well, am I not allowed to talk about it now? I've never been to. Have you ever been to Nazi Germany? Are you allowed to have feelings about them?
You can't time travel, but you can.
Right.
But you can travel.
Okay, but so what? So what's the point? Like,
no,
okay.
I find that
lots of people have been there and agree with me, and lots of people have been there and agree with you.
Yeah, but
so
if
I don't
you're
know
going to
what
spend a year and a half talking about a place, you should at least do the courtesy of visiting it.
All right. I just think this is a non-argument.
You don't
but
think?
Okay. No, I think it's a non-argument.
But if you're next,
well, you have to go and touch the ground.
No, I think you have to see. I think it's a good idea to see stuff, particularly if you spend a career talking about something. Yes, I have a journalistic rule of trying never to talk about a country even in passing unless I've at least been there.
Okay.
It's
But
a
that's
sort
not
of normal. It's a normal thing to do. You're talking about. Hang on. You're talking about crossing points, and not only have you never been to a crossing point in either Egypt or in Israel, but you've never even been to the region.
Okay. Again, I think this is a non-argument. I don't understand.
No, it's not a non-argument.
Yeah, it is.
It's not a non-argument if you're insisting that you're an expert of some kind, or not claiming you're an expert, but still talking about it, about the provisions going into Gaza or not, if you've never seen any of this going on.
So you're not
That's
allowed to
amazing
speak
to
about
me.
things that you've read about. You can only speak about things that you've seen with your own eyes.
You can talk about what you want,
Uh-huh.
as you're proving. But that is a different matter from spending an awfully long amount of time talking about an issue in a region you haven't even had the courtesy to visit, whilst developing all of these views about it. I mean, now I slightly get an idea of where you're coming from. You've read about this blockade, and so you imagine that that's what it is. I imagine you've read all the people who say that Gaza was a concentration camp, and you probably think that too. Am I right?
I mean, again, literally a concentration camp. It shares a lot of similarities, I would think.
Wow. Well, as I say, you can't time travel
Let's go
back to the
back to the
Nazi era.
Let's
but
go
you
back to
could
the
go
blockade.
to the Middle
Okay.
East and actually visit.